There's something in my ear. Khan is back with Star Trek Khan, the third episode of the audio series detailing Khan's unfortunate origins on not Earth, but Ceti Alpha 5. And this time, he's bringing his most fearsome weapon. What is it? I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say it's terrifying, it's gripping, it's tragic, and this episode is poetic. I was shocked with this episode. This episode, in my mind, is better than 1 or 2. 2 is the worst so far, but 3 is definitely the best. And when I say worst, I don't mean worst like, oh, it's a 2 out of 10, like it's some, misfortunate, haphazard, slapstick adventure in New Trek. I mean, it's like bad by regular Trek standards. So it's like it's only like a 5 instead of a 1. Of course, this is an audio series. There's no visuals here. So, like I said in my previous Star Trek Con video, you're bringing your own special effects. And let me tell you, my special effects for this episode were pretty incredible. If only you could enter my mind. Actually, if only they could hire somebody to do the special effects for them, as in create the visuals. It'd be very cool if there was like a slideshow of a representation about what they were talking about, like the ships and what have you, the ship being the Excelsior. But we also have remnants from the Enterprise, as in the Constitution class. And you can hear these devices that they took with them down to Ceti Alpha 5 that they absconded with, although they let them have them, I'm pretty sure. And it's delicious for the ears. And speaking of sound, not just dialogue, the sound in this episode was really something incredible. You should hear it for yourself. It's free. I'm going to say that again. You can watch it on YouTube. Watch, as it were. Our episode, just as a little bit of a spoiler to entice you, a little an appetizer. We start with the Excelsior in orbit when they're digging up, the past, what would happen on Ceti Alpha 5. And we find out that Sulu, the captain, has actually let the shields down in order to feel the meteorite hits on the surface of the Excelsior because he likes the sound. It reminds me of Wrenn, I guess, and it reminded me of Wrenn. And I was so in the zone. I was so locked in when I heard it. Some celestial event, some comet, meteor, planetoid, what have you, exploded. And it's pelting down on the Excelsior. And they're just letting it happen. And I was just like, this is so interesting. This is so... It's so much more interesting than what we've been seeing in New Trek as of recently, in that it's so narrowed down into the details. We're thinking about each individual scene and what's happening and what it's setting up. And I mean, let's be honest, Strange New Worlds specifically, because that's the most recent one, it's the most fresh in my memory, has a fantastic production. It looks expensive. No one ever says that these shows are produced bad. That's not the problem. The problem lies elsewhere. But this time, production-wise, the sound and the minute-to-minute scenes are so interesting. Here's a hint for how this goes. We see a seamless transition, or hear one, between the pelting of the rocks on the surface of the Excelsior, and it transitions seamlessly into like rain or what have you on Ceti Alpha 5, or another meteorite shower. We're seeing what's happening on the Excelsior mirrored by what's happening on Ceti Alpha 5, and the sound transition and the sound quality of Khan's voice as we realize that this is actually a really, really late recording, and he's talking later about what happened, past tense, on Ceti Alpha 5, and his voice sounds more like the Khan we know in The Wrath of Khan. I was so engaged. I was so ready. And I realized this episode that this guy here, his performance as Khan is like, it's right. It's right. We got it right, I think, pretty much. And you can see that when we see, younger Khan, Ceti Alpha 5, and you see that voice where he's starting to hate Ceti Alpha 5. And then you can see how that hate could be shunted off and directed at Kirk specifically. You can see the hate forming here. Not to spoil it, I'm not going to give away the little minute details. I'm going to paint this with a broad brush and just give you the basic blow by blow. But we do see this transition from the Excelsior to what's going on Ceti Alpha 5 to what happened previous episode. A little bit of a cliffhanger last time. And now we see the fruits of that. And it was scary when I saw what happened or heard what happened. And I remember it was a bit of a, do you ever hear something, watch something, and you have the involuntary mouth open moment where you're like this? You're watching a bad show like this, right? Like that's how I saw, like, basically a lot of Strange New Worlds. It's just kind of like, yeah, all right. And then I watched this episode of Star Trek Con, and my mouth was like this for a lot of it, because I knew what was happening, and I could anticipate the horror, right? So maybe this is not going to perform as well for people who don't know Wrath of Khan or don't know Space Seed. I mean, if you're watching this and you don't know Space Seed, you have to watch that first. This Star Trek Con show has homework. It has a required reading, that being Space Seed, and the Wrath of Khan is going to help. Maybe it helped me. I think having seen Wrath of Khan has helped this for me, but that's just a personal feeling. But Space Seed is definitely something you need. Khan, the villain of World War III, and it is interesting to hear these characters reminisce fondly about World War III. It's just something that's fascinating. Unfortunately, it's not new, right? It's more canonism, as in you need to have all this knowledge in order to really get it, and it's not pushing things forward, which I do complain about often with New Trek. We're not really doing something new. But this time, consider it kind of like a lost TOS movie. This is kind of like if we were going to get a TOS movie before... No, this would be after Generations, right? Because chronologically, they do mention Kirk is dead, which means the Nexus incident in Star Trek Generations at the beginning of it has already taken him away. Spoilers for that movie. But this is like if there was another TOS movie and they decided to like make it like a semi kind of prequel setting up Wrath of Khan. It's like a what? It's a Star Trek 1.5. Except that it's set after Generations and they're talking about it in the past tense. It's actually like when you wrap your brain around it, it makes sense and it is interesting. And I get to the end of every one of these Star Trek Con episodes and I'm listening to the credits. They give you the credits about who it was written by and all that. And I just keep expecting to hear different names, and I don't. It's all the usual suspects, and with the name David Mack thrown in. I know I said that last time, but it just sounds like, wait a minute. If we get rid of David Mack and imagine that he's not there, we're really just writing this and producing this with the same people. But it feels so much more intriguing and so much more well-written, we'll say, that I wonder sometimes if... the problem with some of the writing, which is what I criticize most for New Trek, it makes me think that the problem is executives or something overhead. There's something coming down on them, like how a long time ago, the network used to come down on Enterprise and give them these ridiculous notes, how like nobody can die in the transporter, right? Things that like hurt the creativity of the show. And I'm wondering, this could be totally wrong, but maybe in 20 years, when the truth all comes out about this, and as it did for the Rick Berman era, they'll say that, yeah, we wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and the top people at Secret Hideout said no, or the top people at Paramount said no, right? And it's going to be something like that, I bet. In every generation of Star Trek, there are things we want to do and can't do. And I wonder if, as I felt with Prodigy and Lower Decks, and now these lesser, quote unquote, Star Trek projects fly under the radar, and and they kind of like skirt past what they want, what executives wanted. I'm saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do feel that what we're seeing here in Khan is just of a different material fabric than what we were seeing with Strange New Worlds. It's not the same, right? And unfortunately, people's perception becomes reality, and if you generate enough apathy with, say, Strange New Worlds or Academy as it comes out, that will color people's perception of any Star Trek that comes out. It could be completely different. Like, Secret Hideout has produced, in the modern sense since Star Trek Discovery, New Trek, if you will, has produced shows that are very different from each other. Like, they do not, in the Berman era, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, they kind of felt similar. They're shot similar. Their writing is similar. And here, it's not really the case. They're materially different. And Khan is very different. And you should definitely check it out. And that's basically wrapping up my thoughts for the third episode of Star Trek Khan. Poetic. And I will say, after having watched it once and then listened to it once and then listened again, I have like little sayings from Khan going on in my mind, and because his little sound bites are so cool, and there's moments where you can see the characters in this like consider Khan the same way the audience would. They're waiting for the sound bites. They're waiting for what he says, and they're playing it back in their mind, and they're thinking, oh, Khan, yeah, Khan's right. Khan's this, Khan's that. Khan is our leader because X, Y, and Z. And you can see how that works at the same time in the characters in the story and in the listeners, right? It's getting you invested in this idea that, wow, Khan is really my hero, right? And it's truly an exercise in showing how charisma can take you a long way, and hopefully it takes us the rest of the way through this series, however many episodes it has. Anyway, I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you when next I see you, when we get around to what's next. I'm probably going to do a video wrapping up Strange New World Season 3. It's been long enough. I'm not getting any more comments whatsoever on it. It's been long enough. We're going to look at the comments and all that, and we're going to just review the season as a whole very quick, and then we're going to be back for another away mission. And then we're going to loop back around to Monday. Star Trek Con comes out on Monday. Got a case of the Mondays? Maybe you can fix it with Star Trek Con. See you next time.